fateful morning in Meadowville, the quiet town had always been a place where life moved slowly. Nestled between rolling hills and tranquil rivers, it was a community where everyone knew each other, where morning greetings were exchanged at the corner cafe, and where the biggest excitement of the week was the Saturday farmers market. But beneath its serene exterior, Meadowville had its share of unspoken tensions, the kind that simmered just beneath the surface, waiting for a moment to erupt. Elijah Moore, a man of towering presence both physically and in stature as the town's mayor, had spent his life trying to bridge the divides that ran through Meadowville. Having grown up in the town, he was familiar with its history, its charm, and its flaws. His career had been one of progress and justice, fighting for equality and standing firm for those who felt unseen. And yet, on that warm summer morning, as he laced up his sneakers for his daily jog, Elijah had no idea that this day would mark a turning point in his life and in Meadowville's history. Elijah had always found solace in his early morning runs. It was a time to clear his mind, plan his day, and occasionally stop to chat with locals. This morning, his schedule was packed, including a critical meeting with business leaders about revitalizing the town square. As he jogged down the familiar streets, his mind was already formulating ideas, strategies for improving infrastructure and creating more inclusive spaces for the community. He had just crossed one of the quieter intersections, where the morning sun painted long shadows on the road, when the sharp wail of a police siren broke the peace. The sound didn't startle him at first. As mayor, he worked closely with law enforcement, ensuring accountability and high standards of integrity. But the sudden screech of the car pulling up behind him sent a chill of unease down his spine. A voice called out sharply, commanding, "Hey, you there! Stop!" Elijah slowed, turning to see a white police officer stepping out of his squad car. His hand rested on the butt of his holstered weapon, his expression a mixture of authority and something else. Something Elijah couldn't quite place, but recognized instinctively. He pulled out his earbuds, his heartbeat quickening. "Is there a problem, officer?" Elijah asked, his voice calm but firm, a tone he often used in negotiations. "You crossed against the light back there," the officer barked, his tone accusatory. "I'm going to need to see some ID." Elijah frowned, confused but composed. He was meticulous about following traffic laws, especially during his runs. The intersection had been clear, the light green when he crossed. "I believe I had the right of way," he said, maintaining his composure. "If there's been a misunderstanding, I can clarify it. I'm on my way to a meeting." The officer stepped closer, his hand still hovering near his weapon. "I don't care where you're going. I said I need to see some ID, now." Elijah felt the knot of tension in his chest tighten. This wasn't a simple request. It was a demand steeped in something deeper. The officer's tone, his posture, the way he looked at Elijah, it all carried a weight that went beyond the supposed violation. Elijah had faced subtle racism before, but this felt different, more menacing. "Officer," Elijah said evenly, "I'm Mayor Elijah Moore. If you check your records, you'll see I haven't committed any crime. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have a meeting to attend." The officer's eyes narrowed, disbelief flickering across his face before it was replaced by a sneer. "Mayor," he repeated, his voice dripping with derision. "I don't care who you think you are. You're not above the law. Show me some ID, or I'll take you in for resisting an officer." A small crowd had begun to gather, their morning routines interrupted by the escalating scene. Whispers rippled through the group, some recognizing Elijah, others unsure of who he was, but drawn by the spectacle. Phones appeared in hands, cameras recording. The officer seemed oblivious to the growing attention, his focus solely on asserting his authority over Elijah. "I am the law here," the officer said coldly, reaching for his handcuffs. "And right now, you're under arrest." Elijah felt a surge of anger and humiliation, but he kept his composure. This wasn't just about him. It was about every person of color who had ever been wrongfully accused, about every man who had ever been diminished by someone in power. "I'm not going anywhere," Elijah said firmly, "and I will not allow you to humiliate me or anyone else in this town because of your bias." The officer's expression darkened, his grip tightening on the cuffs. "You can either come quietly, or I'll make you." The crowd gasped, voices rising in protest. "That's the mayor!" "You can't do this," someone shouted. But the officer wasn't listening. He snapped the cuffs onto Elijah's wrists with a metallic clink, his face a mask of defiance. Elijah stood tall, even as the cold steel bit into his skin. The once quiet morning had turned into a nightmare. Another voice cut through the chaos. "Grayson, what the hell are you doing?" The crowd parted as another officer approached, his expression one of disbelief and concern. Officer Carter, one of the few officers Elijah trusted, stepped between Grayson and Elijah. "That's Mayor Moore. Let him go." Grayson's face twisted in frustration. "He resisted. He broke the law. I have every right to arrest him." Carter's voice was calm but firm. "This isn't how we handle things, Grayson. You're making a mistake." For a tense moment, the two officers stared each other down. The crowd murmured, their tension palpable. Finally, Grayson shoved the keys at Carter, muttering, "Fine, but this isn't over." He stalked back to his squad car as Carter unlocked the cuffs. "Are you okay, Mayor?" Carter asked quietly. Elijah nodded, though his wrists ached and his pride was bruised. "I'm fine," he said, his voice steady. "But this isn't over." The videos of the arrest spread quickly, igniting outrage across Meadowville and beyond. Calls for accountability echoed through social media and local news. At City Hall, Elijah faced a divided council. Some members urged him to de-escalate, to frame the incident as a misunderstanding. But Elijah refused to downplay what had happened. "This is about more than me," he told the council. "It's about a system that has failed our residents time and time again." The council reluctantly approved an independent investigation into the police department, but resistance was fierce. Chief Thornton held his own press conference, defending his officers and accusing Elijah of politicizing the issue. Meanwhile, activists rallied in support of Elijah, organizing protests and demanding sweeping reforms. The town was a powder keg, tensions simmering on every street corner. One afternoon, as Elijah prepared to meet with community leaders, he encountered another obstacle. The meeting was set to take place at a local community center, but when he arrived, he found the entrance blocked by a line of police officers. At their center stood Sergeant Whitaker, his expression unreadable. "This meeting has been shut down," Whitaker announced. "Public safety concerns." Elijah felt a familiar surge of anger but kept his voice measured. "There's no threat here, Sergeant. This is a peaceful meeting. You have no authority to stop it." Whitaker didn't budge. "We're just following orders, Mayor." The crowd gathered outside the center began to chant, their voices rising in defiance. Elijah turned to face them, raising his hands for quiet. "We will not be silenced," he said, his voice carrying over the noise. "But we must remain peaceful. If we escalate, they win." Inside the community center, Elijah addressed the gathered leaders and residents. "What happened to me is not unique," he said. "It's a reflection of a system that needs to change. But we can't do it alone. We need to stand together, to demand better from those sworn to serve and protect." The room erupted in applause, a wave of solidarity and determination. Elijah knew the road ahead would be long and fraught with challenges, but he was ready. Meadowville was changing, and Elijah Moore was determined to lead that change, no matter the cost.